welcome to Loaded and Rolling. I'm Thomas Watson, enterprise trucking carrier expert here at FreightWaves, and gonna have a really fun topic today talking about tolling. Not only how it impacts the bottom line, but there's a lot of costs that have been impacting fleets, and then even with infrastructure and jobs. One of the big things that we are not thinking about is when you're building roads, some of them are going to be toll roads. And what does that mean? Because as you're driving, sometimes you don't want to be on the wrong road and incur some extra costs, especially now that we're in a depressed rate environment. And joining me to talk about this is going to be, we're going to introduce him in a minute, is going to be Jason Walker, Chief Revenue Officer at Bestpass. If you don't know about Bestpass, they are a provider of back office automation software, and they do toll management solutions for commercial fleets. And when you're talking about it, you want to save time and money by consolidating your payments and figuring out what your costs are. That's half the battle in trucking anyway. They've been around since 2001, founded by truckers for truckers, and they are a trusted partner on the road and in the back office for customers and tolling authorities. So I'm going to bring in Jason. Jason, welcome, sir. For folks who aren't familiar about your experiences in trucking and in this space, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, great to be here today, Thomas. Thank you so much for the introduction. A little bit about me. I have been Chief Revenue Officer at Bestpass for just over 18 months now, and having a great time with the organization. We're growing very fast, a lot of great things and exciting things that we'll talk about today. Prior to that, I've spent 27 years in the software and tech space in particular. And specifically, prior to joining Bestpass, I was in the GPS tracking and ELD space for 11 years. And from my standpoint, I love working in the fleet space because of really how vital fleets are to our economy and just flat out keep our country moving. At Bestpass, we believe that tolling is really a byproduct of being in business, and it's a distraction that prevents our customers from focusing on their own customers, their revenue growth, efficiency, and safety. So tolling administration typically falls onto people that are charged with those critical functions, and it can prevent them from optimizing the effectiveness and achieving what they were hired to do. So everything that we do is focused on relieving the burden of tolling and the internal resources at the organization by creating efficiencies across the company so that customers, or our customers specifically, can get back to running and growing their respective businesses. So it's, from my standpoint, just a lot of fun working with our customers to help them get back to what their intentions are to do with the business and get the burden of tolling off their plate.
And it feels like one of the challenges for drivers and fleets is that tolling happens. You have the indicator; it's charging you. But one of the things is because of higher rates and other premiums, it's almost like it's not front of mind. It just happens to come when it's due, and then you're stuck with extra stress dealing with it. What is, from customers and users, what's one of the biggest challenges that they're running into this year when they're trying to figure out how to manage this? Because from my personal experience, it does almost feel like it comes out of nowhere, and then you have this huge bill, and you're like, "Oh crap, what am I have to do with this?"
Yeah, I would almost answer that question by saying it's not unique just to the current environment. It's almost just exacerbated by it. So our customers have not been immune to the volatility in the market that we see out there. Their core, mission is to make their fleet more productive, more efficient, and safe through doing things like reducing risk, accidents, fraud, et cetera. So what we're hearing from them is that they are just even more acutely focused on looking at every corner of their budget and operating expenses to maintain and improve their margins. And so when you start talking about tolls, some of the inherent problems with it are that it's the latency with which they get that information. So by the nature of dealing with all the different authorities that are out in the market, it becomes a very reactive thing instead of a proactive thing. So if you think about the types of data that fleets are looking at today, they get a lot of that real time, whether it's GPS tracking data, whether it's maintenance data. They have their fingertips on the pulse of what's happening there. But one thing that they don't have is the tolling data. And that's because, again, of that latency I'm talking about. And so they're forced to react to it. And instead of being proactive and understanding how it's impacting their fleet, they don't even have time to deal with it because they get so many different accounts that they're having to work with. They have so many different paper toll violations that they have to deal with. And on top of that, it's just a real hardship for them because this is typically falling on people that are responsible for things like managing the fleet or fleet safety, and it takes them away from doing those things.
It reminds me, came from US Express. It kind of got rolled into the tolling groups, was like the fuel routing and some of the log compliance. And it was weird because it was, when you have thousands of trucks on the road, they're going to take these routes and you're going to have to deal with it. For most fleets, is this normally just condensed into at the end of the month, I get X amount of money I have to deal with for paying for these tolls? Or are folks looking at it as every week, here's what truck hit what tolls, who's taking a route? Like how, when we're looking at the landscape, how detailed is it right now and what should it look like if you really want to manage these costs?
So that's exactly what we help people do. So if you don't have a platform like Bestpass, but what you're doing or what you're being forced to do is be reactive, like I was just saying. And what that means is exactly what you were just describing. You're forced to, at the end of the month or at the end of the period, those trucks are out, they're driving all day, every day, as an example. They're hitting toll all day, every day, but that respective toll is not getting to them for sometimes up to 3 weeks or even more, based on whatever authorities or the areas with which they're driving. So if you're a fleet manager trying to take all of that data and use it to do what you were just describing, which is optimize routes, understand how the routes and the way that you're driving is combined with your use of fuel, with maybe other things that you're taking into account for your fleet, you simply can't do that unless you have a platform that's giving you that information in a timely manner. So if you're a customer of BestPass, we're typically able to get you all of that information because we integrate with all of the different, say, 50 plus tolling authorities out there. You can go to one portal in one place where within usually less than 48 hours, you have that information so that you can make better decisions for your fleet. And whether it's making sure that your routes are optimized and you are spending XYZ when you're traveling from, say, point A to point B, you can match that up much more easily than you would be if you were trying to do this and manage all the different multiple authorities and accounts that you might have open. All of them have different reporting structures. All of them have different reporting cadences. And so again, trying to make sense of all that, you need a whole team to do that. When, if you were using a platform like ours, you can go in on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, wherever you see fit, pull that data, and then use that to make more intelligent decisions about how you're operating.
And when you're trying to pay it, you got a good point. Some folks won't receive it until 3 weeks later. And I do wonder, is there situations where some of these tolling companies will levy more fees or a late fee and say, well, you should have gotten this. I'm going to charge you an extra like 10 cents or extra dollar or however much. Is there a concern for fleets that if they don't pay more attention to this, I'm going to be racked up with additional fees?
That's one of the biggest concerns. And by the way, it's not 10 cents. Usually what happens is there's a $2 toll and then a $50 administrative fee that goes on top of it. So if that toll's coming in late, many of the folks that we talk to are our clients, prospective clients. In that initial conversation, they will hold up the stacks of paper that they're dealing with on their desks that are coming from the various disparate authorities across the country. And those are all toll violations because they are seen as late payments. And what comes across with those is those admin fees I was just referencing. And that can be up to 10x what the toll even was. So it's a huge burden on them not to be able to have that done in a timely manner. And one of the first things that we're able to do for fleets is literally eliminate between 85 and 95% of that paper toll hitting your desk. So again, when you start talking about getting back to the job that you were hired to do, that's one of the main things that we do is take that administrative function away and then clean up those violations, and we make sure that all the vehicles are registered properly within the system so that you don't get that toll. And then the other thing that we do that's just as important is we'll help and work with our fleets to optimize the way that they're paying those tolls. So we have the ability, based on where you're traveling, to give you different types of devices that are going to give you different types of coverage that are going to be appropriate for the vehicles that you have out on the road. And with that will come usually additional savings, but the biggest thing is that you're going to alleviate all of that paper toll and those administrative fees that can be very daunting and prevent a fleet from even being profitable.
And there's really cool with the technology factor. Some of them use like RFID, some ways to show if your truck actually went through the toll. Because I remember in an earlier conversation, this kind of blew my mind with y'all, was that some of them use cameras to take a picture of your plates. But a problem is that some states your plate may be similar or the exact same as like a regular car, and then you start getting charged because the agency gets you mixed up with like a motorist or something, and then you have to spend time trying to fight that and deal with the fees and the structure. Is that still an issue, especially with some of the technologies used by these tolling locations?
It absolutely is. So one of the things that can happen. So typically, customers will have a transponder in the vehicle, and that transponder is going to, is 98% effective, right? And there are times, though, for whatever reason, you might go through a tolling gantry, and it wouldn't get picked up by the reader. And if you didn't have your plate on the vehicle, there would be a violation. The secondary thing that we always do is register plates, so that if you go through and for some reason that transponder doesn't get caught, you will get a plate, and it will be a plate read, and that will prevent you. That's how we prevent some of those paper violations from hitting our customers. More importantly, some of the things that we're also doing is, as we move forward here, we are creating opportunities to start to integrate this fleet data into different systems that fleet managers and safety managers are using, whether it's GPS tracking or different ELD systems, so that you can have more of that single pane of glass view of your toll spend, where it's occurring. And again, start to visualize that data in the fleet on a map, so that you can make really intelligent decisions about it, and also potentially catch things like you were describing, if your vehicle perhaps wasn't at the same place as the toll charge. So being able to validate charges and have the peace of mind that not only are you running your fleet as efficiently as possible, but there's no situations of potentially fraud going on, where sometimes maybe a device is taken out of one truck and put in another, or even a personal vehicle by a driver. So it gives visibility and control back to the customer. And we can do that also, again, with a lot of the reporting that we're able to give customers inside our software portal.
And looking at opportunities with that, because I know that from my experiences, routing is important. We talk about routing frequently for fueling. I'm going to optimize my fuel route, but then it felt like secondary, you didn't always pay attention if you were doing things to avoid tolls or if you needed to take the tolls. Is that an instance where now the software and the technology is getting to a point where a fleet can say, well, I have 5 trucks each going the same route on this lane, but one of them keeps racking up all of these tolls? Is this something where they're not following my routing, or should I adjust my routing? I do wonder if that kind of opens the door, because I feel like that's like a headache. If I'm going to get 3 weeks charged an extra 50, $100 because I'm not paying for the tolls, I could be losing money on that truck and not even knowing.
That is exactly what I was speaking to. So, as an example, one of the fleets that we work with today uses toll metrics to help them decide their routes for vehicles. So, with Bestpass, they're able to integrate the tolling data into their fleet systems and understand the true cost of the route. If taking the toll road is going to be the most efficient thing for them to do, in a cost saving route, or if they should maybe take a different one. So getting this information has made it easier for the company to make decisions that will have an impact on the driver's time, along with the company's bottom line. And this also assists them in knowing the true cost of the load and potentially being able to bill customers back for that amount. I think right now a lot of fleets, if they're really managing and on top of their toll, and doing that self-management program to an effective degree, they can somewhat predict the tolling costs and might be able to build that into the cost of the route. But it takes a ton of work. If you have a platform like ours, we can really ease the pain there to make it a lot easier for you to understand the cost of those routes, which ones you should be taking, and then how to bill back your customer if it's something that you want to choose to do.
I think that's pretty important, because a lot of carriers, if you're a smaller one, you're happy enough just to get a fuel surcharge, and you're happy enough to quantify your miles if it's a Google mile or Rand McNally miles or whatever PC miler miles, and then figure out how to get that back. A lot of them aren't really taking that time to consider the routes and the tolls, and then the next step, which is, can you charge me back for this? Because when you sent me this load, your routing through the ADI or API or whatever put me through this route? Is that an opportunity for a large customer as well? Maybe private fleets too. They're probably thinking the same way, which is maybe I should adjust the routes or the mileage or put some notes in there because I keep getting chargebacks.
Exactly. So, you've been in the space a long time. You know that the magic thing that all fleets are trying to get to is they're trying to understand what is the true cost per mile to operate a vehicle. The one piece of data that has eluded, we've talked about GPS tracking, we've talked about maintenance data. All of that data is readily available for fleet managers and safety managers today. The one piece of data that has still been really hard for them to get their hands around is tolling data. And that's just because of the nature of all the different authorities out there. Again, all the different systems. By using Bestpass or a system like ours, you're able to get one portal or one place that you can go to get one bill. You can see all that data as real time as possible. Again, most of the time within 48 hours or less. And you've got one place to call if you have a problem and one invoice to pay. So it really simplifies and smooths out that process to join all of that fleet data together so that you can make a really holistic decision about what's best for you.
And let's switching gears a little bit on toll projects. I think the coolest thing about toll roads that most folks don't know is they've been around for hundreds of years. It's not like every state had the ability to maintain their own roads. So even in like the early colonial times, toll roads were a means to build a road and maintain, and we still see that. But with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act in 2021, whole lot more stuff coming up. What does that look like from Best Pass for fleets, for providers? Is this something where, as these things are being constructed, are we almost going to have to remap some of these locations and figure out, where the heck are these new roads? Or did a road now become a private investment toll road to help cover the cost when it used to be maybe a state government or federal road?
Yeah, so great question. It's a busy and exciting time for states and tolling authorities who now have funding to restart stalled projects, build new roads. Tolling is expanding, and it's going to be, again, it's a necessary thing to build the infrastructure out and really create new roads and new ways for us to get goods from one place to another. For trucking companies and other fleets, new toll roads can be daunting because they're kind of thinking, how do I keep up with this? We already work with 50 or plus tolling authorities, and we are in the middle of helping, being involved in those projects, laying the groundwork so that when those new roads come online, our customers are going to be covered. They're not going to have to worry about this. They won't experience hiccups. One of the things customers will ask us is, where are you going next? What's your coverage going to look like? What are the things that we need to be thinking about? The good news for them is that we're thinking about these things for them. And we really help fleets keep up with the changing tolling landscape so that they don't have to think about it. We will include the new tolling structures, new private roads, whatever, within our coverage so that it remains ubiquitous. And so we're very focused as an organization on making sure that we're involved at the industry level and active in all of the new roads that are coming online, emerging technology for toll capture, or even the new ways that authorities are testing to collect tolls. So we use this information to make sure that we continue to come up with enhanced ways for our customers to leverage our services by staying at the forefront of all the industry trends. So I'll give you, Thomas, I'll give you one example. One of the new collection methods that is currently being tested is called road user charging, and you'll hear it referred to as RUC in some cities, and they're testing it in some states, Oregon being one of them. Road user charging is one of the latest pricing models under exploration. So today's tolling model charges drivers a fee for each vehicle when they're entering a tunnel, a bridge, entering a tollway, as an example. But road usage charging is based on the number of miles driven rather than a single entry or exit point. This is in its infancy. It's years away from being widespread usage or having widespread usage, but we're already involved so that we can make sure that we're addressing this. And when it becomes a reality for our customers, we'll be at the forefront of that, ready for them with a solution that will work.
That reminds me, I'm excited for Oregon. I remember being on hold before. If you don't buy the pass for the whole year and you don't go there frequently, you have to get the temp passes, and you have to tell them where you think you'll come in and when you can leave. For states like Oregon, and I think of Kentucky with KYU and their permits, is that a situation where these states that are trying to get additional money, are they going to start using this technology to say, well, now I can finally quantify it and then hit you up later on after hit you up on a toll? versus some more lenient states. I don't think Tennessee we had to deal with a lot of tolls, but I think Kentucky and Oregon were the two that really come to mind. And I'm curious if we're looking at places that are going to have more toll roads or make it more difficult for fleets. Are there more regions or states or zones that drivers should be aware of to think of? Well, maybe I need to rethink some of my trips moving forward.
I think that's certainly possible. Right now, again, it's really in its infancy, and so the policies around how that all will work are evolving and starting to, get formulated. So we're involved with those types of meetings at the tolling authority levels. So again, it's probably too early to comment about how that will work, but we will be involved as those things do start to take shape, so that again, we have a clear path for solutions, and this won't be something that's totally burdensome for fleets and our customers. I think now, from a coverage standpoint, our focus is also always on new roads that are coming online. So whether they're new bridges between Canada and the United States, maybe the Mexican border, new roads in California, we're involved in understanding where all those are happening, prioritizing those for our customers. So again, that we can make sure that the areas that we cover remain ubiquitous for everyone, and we still cover 100% of the major toll roads across the country as these new roads come online.
And question on the agencies, I'm kind of curious about this. They're like, you talked about over 50 different ones. Are these agencies normally focused on like the stretch of road, or is it kind of like the state tolling agency? Or because it seems pretty wild. I do wonder if there ever was a unified agency that subcontracts it out when you're trying to deal with the payments, or if it's a hodgepodge and then you have to connect with them and work with them. And there's just tons of them nationwide because they may just have a bridge and a small stretch of highway.
You just described the situation exactly correctly. So there are statewide authorities. There are private authorities for specific roads alone. And it's the challenge of all those things put together that make it so complicated for interoperability and other things. And so as they continue to move towards the use of different technologies and different ways to do this, at the same time, because there's so many of them and so many different back-end systems and all these other things, that's where the importance of what we do comes directly into play, because we've already built the integrations with all these different authorities. That's how we get this into one bill for our customers, so that you can have one place to go, one place to call for questions, etc. If you think about the nature of those authorities, a lot of them are quasi-government entities. They don't move as fast as a company like we can to provide the services. The other thing is, their main concern is collecting toll. That is our main bailiwick, if you will. It's what our strength is helping you pay for your toll. But we're concerned about our customers and providing them with the best service possible and insight into the data. Whereas the authorities are never going to have that view, because they have a different charter. Their charter is they need to collect tolls for this road. So what we do is help them collect that money, and they love the fact that we're involved in the equation, because we guarantee payment for our customers. We get them that money on time. They love that aspect. The other point or part of the equation that we take care of for our customers is giving them cutting edge ways to look at how they're spending money on the roads to make their fleets more efficient. And that's the balance between where we kind of sit in the middle of those two phases, where we serve our customers, but then we also serve the authorities by making sure that they get their payments on time.
I like it. We're running running low on time right now. But if folks are interested in signing up, learning more about Bestpass, or even reaching out to you for information, what's the best way to get in contact?
The best way to get in contact is to go to our website, which is www.bestpass.com. And you can find out all the information there, numbers to call if you have questions about what services we can offer. If you're a current customer and you have questions, our support numbers are online as well. And again, we service fleets from one to infinity, and we've been in business now for over 20 years. We've got 30,000 customers, processed about 1.5 billion in tolls last year, and are covering currently over 2 million vehicles on the road. So was really enjoyed talking with you today, Thomas, and look forward to being back again sometime.
Perfect. Jason, really appreciate your time. You can check them out as well. And if you want to catch more of the podcast, or you're just hopping in on this, you can find this on YouTube as well as Apple and Spotify. Just check it out. FreightWaves, loaded and rolling. That's going to be a wrap for this episode, but don't worry, we come out every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Stay tuned. We'll see you then.